I'm sure most people will have experienced difficult neighbours at one point or another, but have their actions ever fueled you enough to kill their entire household? That's exactly what Majorjon Kaylor did to the Guardipee household in summer 2023, committing an execution-style quadruple murder. Before we delve into this unthinkable case, I would massively appreciate it if you'd be able to hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate all of your support. But for now, let's get started on this unthinkable case. Today we are visiting Kellogg in Idaho, in the United States, where both the Kaylor family and the Guardipee family lived. Within the Guardipee family was Kenneth, who was 65 years old, his 41-year-old daughter, Kenna, and her two sons, Devon, who was 18, and Aiken, who was 16 years old. They recently just moved into their downstairs apartment within a little duplex, and the Kaylor family lived in the apartment just above them. Within the Kaylor family was Majorjon, who was 32 years old, and his wife Kaylee and their 3 young children. So I'll give a little bit of a background on the Guardipee family before we delve into this unthinkable case. Kenna instilled their love of the outdoors within her boys from a very young age, with their regular camping, skiing and huckleberry picking trips. Social media would often display photos of their bikes in front of beautiful scenic mountain backdrops. Kenna was a single mum and a cook at a nearby assisted living facility. She's been described as really hard-working and very protective of her boys. Meanwhile, her father Kenneth was just enjoying his retirement but also recovering from a heart attack. He was spending more time than ever with his grandsons and also helping to raise them, ensuring that they could attend after-school events and doctor's appointments. 18-year-old Devon had just graduated from high school but had always suffered with some mental issues, which his family were supporting him with while he navigated his next steps in life. And finally, 16-year-old Aiken was working really hard at the local Junior Marine Reserve Training Corps, progressing towards his dream military career. He also volunteered extensively within the community and was working on a 1957 Jeep Wrangler with his granddad Silver. He'd been described as an innocent kid who wouldn't hurt a single soul. On the 13th of June 2023, Kaylee Kaylor was absolutely distraught when one of her 2 juvenile daughters pointed at their neighbour in the window. She glanced across to see 18-year-old Devon Smith stood fully exposed in the window while shaking his penis and masturbating while watching the 2 young girls playing in the shared backyard. The police were called regarding the incident, but the Kaylor couple weren't remotely satisfied that enough was being done to punish the teenager. So he told the officers that matters will be taken into his own hands if he felt the need to. Kaylee of which just assumed that this meant a beating. Kaylee made a really long public Facebook post about the incident. I'm not going to read it out just because of its length, but feel free to pause the video to be able to read the full thing. And the response back from others was really quite alarming. Devon appeared to have quite a history of perverted and inappropriate behaviour, especially throughout school. Just 5 days later, on Father's Day, 18th of June 2023, Kaylor arrived home from work and armed himself before exiting his truck. Surveillance footage from a nearby business captured Kaylor walking around their duplex, ducking behind a trailer while appearing to view their shared backyard space. He then entered the yard and helped to water the plants. It was then that a heated argument broke out between Kaylor and his neighbours, Kenneth and Kenna Guardipee, about Devon's inappropriate behaviour. The confrontation had been so loud that there was 5 minutes worth captured on the surveillance audio. Dissatisfied with the lack of punishment or remorse about the whole incident, Kaylor decided to take it upon himself to do something. He shot Kenna at close range, followed by her dad, Kenneth. Kaylor then broke into their apartment and found 16-year-old Aiken and shot him once in the head. He then found Devon, who Kaylor blames for the whole ordeal, referring to him as a pedo, and shot him multiple times in the head. Kaylor left the property and placed the gun in his truck. 2 911 calls were made. The first was alerting of the gunshots being fired, and there was a second call made at about 7:20 p.m. by Kaylor himself. He told the dispatcher, "I just went downstairs and executed and his family." They responded with, "You shot 4 people and they're all dead?" "Yes, I shot 4 people," he replied. Police really quickly attended the scene at 7:24 p.m, where they found Kaylor standing on the street. He instantly confessed to shooting and killing his neighbours, and he was then detained. Detective Klitsch investigated the scene and discovered the bodies of the 4 victims. Kenna and Kenneth were both found outside their apartment, both with gun wounds to their head and torso, with multiple cases surrounding their bodies. Upon entering the residence, Aitken was found between the kitchen and the living area, with 1 single shot to his temple. It is believed that he was already on the floor in a prone position during the shooting. Absolutely tragic considering 16-year-old Aitken was completely innocent in this full incident. And finally, Devon was found in the southeastern bedroom with multiple shots to the head. All of the shots were either at point-blank range or of really close range, and it was also revealed that Kaylor would have had to have reloaded the gun during the shooting because of the amount of casings that had been found. Officers found a gun in Kaylor's truck along with an empty magazine. Blood and human tissue was found on the gun, which is also consistent with close-range shootings. Kaylor had told the officers that their concerns of the whole incident with Devon just wasn't being taken seriously, and he was annoyed that there'd been no consequences from parents or police. This then led to the heated argument and ultimately the quadruple execution-style murder. He'd said he'd just snapped, lost it, and did something about it. Kaylor and the officer also discussed a podcast about sex predators, to which Kaylor expressed he has a really big problem with things like that. He told the officer, "That's why this happened, because no one would do anything about it, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to let something happen to my kids, and his mother telling me he can do whatever he wants, there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm like, you're okay with this behaviour? He's never had any repercussions and the whole town is aware of it, but no one will do anything about it." He also said there was no remorse, there was no "we're sorry" or "yeah, it's a problem, we're working on it." Police had also spoke to Kaylee, who had been really nearby during the shootings. She witnessed Kenna and Kenneth both falling to the floor before running off upstairs into her apartment, where she heard even more gunshots being fired. She also claims to have heard Kaylor say that he killed 4 people, which was likely when he was making the 911 call. Kaylor gave his wife his phone, his keys and his wallet and told Kaylee to tell the kids that he was protecting them. Prior to this murder, Kaylor had what was described as a sparse and sporadic, non-violent criminal history, with a handful of misdemeanor driving charges and 1 drugs possession misdemeanor. He worked at a local mine and has the word "savage" tattooed above his eye. A court then came together on the 25th of March 2024, where Kaylor's defence expressed that Kaylor had become a family man and a productive member of society after a childhood of abuse and neglect. He went on to say, "I have seen what prosecutors are able to do for victims of crimes, and none of the protective steps that we see routinely in a criminal case were accomplished here." He argues that the perceived lack of response from the authorities is what ultimately led to the killings. The police chief, however, made a statement saying, "I stand by what my officer did, and he did everything he could at the time. No one could have foreseen anything like this." Tragically, the police had handed over their findings to prosecutors relating to the incident on the 13th of June, only 2 days before Kaylor brutally murdered the full family. Prosecutors had revealed a meme that Kaylee had sent to Kaylor sometime between the time of the incident to the time of the shooting. It was a black and white image referring to Leon Gary Plauché, who was a dad that shot a man suspected of abducting and essaying his son in Louisiana Airport, 1984. It included an image of a man shooting another man in the head with the caption, "How to Catch a Predator." They pointed out that the shootings had been so horrific that 3 of the 4 victims had muzzle burns on their temple. They said, when the defendant believed his family had been wronged, he took justice into his own hands, targeting the person whom he believed was responsible, and taking any other life that stood in his way. 13 victim impact statements were made in court. These individuals had been so severely impacted by the crime that the judge has deemed them as surviving victims. They all expressed immense grief, one of which was David Silver, the granddad to the 2 boys. He was really close to 16-year-old Aitken, who he referred to as the Shining Star. He said through tears, "I've lost my best friend. Our family was needlessly murdered. 3 generations, an entire legacy was completely destroyed. An entire family taken by one person." He is also heartbroken that he has no one to leave their prized Jeep Wrangler to, that they'd worked so hard on together. Another statement came from Kenna's mum and Silver's wife, who detailed her struggle to get through each day without her daughter and her grandsons. Most notably was Kenneth's brother, Joe Guardipee's 3-page handwritten statement addressed directly to Kaylor. He said, "You said you snapped. Did you snap when you told a co-worker you were going to do something that would get you in trouble later? Did you snap when you loaded 2 magazines to the maximum with ammunition? Did you snap when you strapped on a semi-automatic pistol? Did you snap when you crept around, casing the apartments, looking for your victims prior to the incident? Did you snap when you confronted them and continuously pulled the trigger until both magazines were empty? You decided to be the judge and jury. You decided to play God. You said you were protecting your children. Let me ask you, who's protecting them now? All you did is traumatize them. They will spend the rest of their lives knowing their father is nothing more than a 2-bit killer. What a man you are. Not only did you destroy my family, but yours as well." Kaylor's defence had requested the possibility of parole, while prosecutors had advised a fixed 50-year sentence since the case was so extreme and severe. The judge offered Kaylor to speak before receiving his sentence, but he refused. Kaylor was initially charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. However, this was later reduced to second-degree murder in exchange for a guilty plea. There simply wasn't enough evidence to prove that the murders were premeditated. Kaylor was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Audible gasps could be heard as the Guardipee family sobbed when hearing Kaylor's sentence. Kaylor's friends and family also broke down in tears. In terms of protecting his kids, as Kaylor claims, his wife later ended up losing the house. A friend of hers then set up a GoFundMe in hopes of being able to help her get back on her feet and still create a somewhat normal life for her children. It's very clear that the Guardipee household have been a huge miss within their family. I hope that the Guardipee family and friends are healing from this horrific incident.